Lockbox, Chapter 67. Sarah awakened in the hospital bed. Her brown eyes stared at the ceiling. How are you feeling? The female voice asked. Sarah turned to see the nurse in her white outfit, removing a drip from Sarah's arm. Sarah asked, What day is it? The nurse smiled. It's Sunday. You will be glad to be going home today. The doctor will be in to give you a clean bill of health. Sarah observed the nurse as she cleaned her arm at the puncture from the drip needle, then placed a band-aid on it. The nurse started to clear up the work trays at Sarah's bedside. Randomly, Sarah softly asked, Do you believe in God? The nurse stopped. She looked at Sarah with a smile. Did you have a bad dream? Sarah frowned. How did you? The nurse laughed. I'm sorry. You asked a serious question. Quite a personal one. I imagine it didn't come out of the blue. It is something you are thinking deep within. No? Sarah nodded her head in the affirmative. The nurse acknowledged with a nod herself. She gathered her clipboard and pulled it close to her breast. I don't know if my belief or disbelief will help you. There are times when nothing in this world makes sense unless there is a God. In those times, I do believe. The physical health of the people that come in and out of this place brings joy and deep sorrow together. Why? Some leave here healthy and alive. Others don't leave alive. Then again, there are moments when none of this makes any sense, and amazingly, I don't believe in God. At that moment, the young female doctor enters, Rhonda trailing behind her. The blonde haired doctor with a baby face examined Sarah silently. You are mended, Miss Chaney. Clear to go home. He smiled at Sarah good naturedly. If you need anything, don't hesitate to contact me. The nurses at the front desk will help you with a prescription I wrote out for you. It will help you with any discomfort. Sarah whispered, Thank you, doctor. The nurse shrugged her shoulder knowingly at Sarah and walked away with the doctor. Opening the door, the nurse and doctor departed. Rhonda hurried over to Sarah and hugged her. I'm so glad to see you are well. Let's get you all dressed and packed, then get out of here. Before long, they were speeding in Rhonda's car back to Lafayette, heading east on Dillon Road. It was a chilly afternoon, a partly cloudy day. Much of last week's snow had been practically cleared from the roads by the intense Colorado sun, but Sarah could still see the white oasis in the fields by the roadway. The traffic moderately filled the single lane leading away from a Vista hospital, where Sarah had spent the last week since her accident. The Vista also had been the hospital where she had been born. Rhonda kept glancing over at the silent Sarah, who was again adorned in her traditional Japanese mourning colors. The white blouse with the ruffles, the cream skirt, the white pullover cap. Sarah's dove white face seemed more pasty than usual, thought Rhonda. Her long black hair hanging down from under her cap framed her shoulders. Rhonda finally broke the silence. You gave everyone quite the scare. She looked over at Sarah, who remained silent. It was Wilfred who found you at first. If he hadn't turned back from heading home and saw in which direction you drove, we might never have recovered you in time. She paused, keeping her eyes on the road, then talking over her shoulder. What possessed you? Sarah heard Rhonda as if hearing a distant whisper. Jasmine dominated Sarah's mind. Her mother had come to her, talked to her, and in a way rebuked her. The castigation stung. Sarah had been chasing the meaning of her mother's lockbox, the causation of her mother's death, and had discovered the power of lucid dreaming. It was now the fourth time Sarah had experienced her mother. One might believe the power of lucid dreaming to bring Jasmine back to Sarah might produce joy to both of them, but Sarah sensed pain from her mother. It was as if Jasmine regretted seeing her daughter. This is the sensation Sarah felt. Why didn't she reward her daughter with accolades and tears of joy? No, far from it, Mother chided. Your dreams are built on the imagination of your spirit, yet you refuse to believe. You will believe what your physical eyes show you, what your physical ears hear for you, what your hands touch for you, and the ground upon which your feet walk. This you will believe. Touch, taste, sound, sight. However, when it concerns the configured imagination of your own mind, the longing of your own soul, this you continue to refuse to believe. Sarah turned to Rhonda, looking at her best friend from a place she couldn't really define. Unbeliever? Sarah the unbeliever? Sarah the stubborn? Sarah the denier of reality? I'm sorry. I gave you guys a scare, Sarah said in a haunted tone. Rhonda tapped her friend on the leg as they crossed Highway 52 onto Dillon Road. Don't worry about it. We're all glad you're okay. You believe, Sarah continued, still in a stunned stupor. Rhonda glanced at Sarah. I believe what? You believe God, returned Sarah. You believe in God. Both of those statements are true. Why? I've already told you why, answered Rhonda. I told you how I came to believe. I know, but why? You don't see God, can't touch him, taste him, hear him. True, I haven't had that kind of experience, but I've experienced all those things in different ways. As I told you, my moral hypocrisy pushed me in that direction once I saw it. Yes, Sarah whispered, morality. It has no tangible essence. Rhonda laughed. You've become quite the historian and philosopher yourself these last few months. You should be putting things together in your imagination by now. In my imagination, Sarah tasted the word, remembering her mother's rebuke. When I was in the hospital bed, I had the most frightful experience. I dreamed I was paralyzed. Oh, I've had those moments. This mostly happens when you are kind of awake, but you are still on the edge of dreams. They call it REM sleep. Sarah acknowledged this with a nod. But for me, it became lucid. My mother appeared, and she accused me of being a willful unbeliever, like I was some kind of pagan. Well, laughed Rhonda, that has the ring of truth. You think I'm a deliberate unbeliever? A pagan. Rhonda laughed playfully. That you are. She thought a second, then frowned. I don't like where you are going with this. Your mother, I'm sure, wasn't thinking like that. If you dreamed Jasmine said what she said, I'm sure it's just an honest subconscious observation. She looked at Sarah. You yourself have made it clear to me many times you didn't believe in God. Yes, but I'm trying to discover what happened to Mother. Sarah threw up her hands. If she is going to come to me, why not simply say, here I am, you're looking for me, here I am, I'm okay, this is what happened to me, you don't have to worry anymore, you don't have to waste your life, exist, IRL. I can answer that for you, friend. Rhonda had been waiting at the red light at the intersection of Dillon Road and Highway 387. The light turned green and she now turned left, heading north toward Lafayette. Have you finished the task Donaldson gave you? What? The task. Remember, you were supposed to find out who the elder was. Oh, that. Sarah chewed on Rhonda's question. She had put that question aside when Wilfred began helping her with her lucid dreams. Since she started seeing her mother, the question of who the elder might be had become of no consequence. At least Sarah felt that way. What did the answer to that question have to do with what happened to her mother? And what about the lockbox? Have you opened it at last? Sarah frowned at the question. She didn't answer. The memory came back to her. What happened that day? She remembered Rhonda in the store break room. Rhonda laughed. Oh, it's no secret. I've never hidden my beliefs from you. No true Christian could do that, even if she tried to not impose. We have the life giving spirit. It wants to get out, it demands to be known. I imagined one day we'd have this conversation. I just never wanted to impose it on you. But now that you have asked why I believe Jesus is God, my Savior, of your own accord, I will tell you my tale of conversion. She remembered waking up sweating, her conversation with Rhonda planted squarely in her mind. She had gone into the kitchen, made herself tea, chai. She recalled that. She recalled sitting at her kitchen table. Her mind drifted to her mother's lockbox and the silver key that would open it. She remembered getting up and walking into her mother's bedroom. She remembered opening the drawer, taking up the silver key, taking the lockbox out of the drawer. She saw herself take the lockbox to the kitchen. She remembered sitting at the kitchen table, and she replayed in her mind stuffing the key into the lock of the lockbox. What happened? She heard Rhonda's voice. Sarah glanced at Rhonda, confused. What? Why did you become lost? You need to get back to your goal, insisted Rhonda. She was pulling in front of Sarah's trailer home now. Sarah's memory of that snowstorm night haunted her. Yes, you're right. I need to get back to work on my task. The elder. I think I have an idea. Excellent. It's good to have you back in our reality. Rhonda reached over and handed Sarah a shopping bag. Your lockbox is in there. And the key. Sarah nodded. Sarah took hold of the bag. Thank you for remembering this for me, keeping it safe. Sarah climbed out of the car. She saw her green Volvo had been returned to her driveway. She watched as Rhonda drove away. She took a deep breath. My sheep hear my voice. Lockbox, Chapter 68. The next day at Norland Library, Sarah returned to the spot where Wilfred and she shared their lucid dream. She sat up there, a place far from prying eyes, a place of comfort. She had no intention of dreaming today, rather, she intended research. She had a plan which she determined to implement. She had been thinking about her mother's rebuke, accusing Sarah of having a stubborn, closed mind. The reproach truly stung Sarah. In addition to the sting, being paralyzed in her mother's forceful lucid dream awakened Sarah to understand not only the possibility that her mother still animated in this alternate reality, but also there must be a way for Sarah to better listen to the imagination of her own inner spirit. Jasmine's charge of obstinance against her daughter imposed on Sarah the necessity of a more ready acceptance when the inspiration came from her inner self. Sarah made up her mind to listen to her imagination this time. Intuition told her if what her mother said contained truth, her imagination was like the voice of its own reality. The spirit was not an ephemeral fantasy concocted from the waking life. The spiritual reality powered her waking material life. Sarah needed to take the spirit life more seriously, and she could do this by actually plotting her actions in her dreams. Spirit was her true consciousness self, thought Sarah. And because this was true, she might be able to control the content configured through her imagination. She knew this, but Sarah failed to really believe it. She kept playing the victim in her dreams and in the visions given her, being passive to the extreme, until now, Sarah only had been making herself available to lucid dreaming. She was being receptive to this different reality like a student who would be receptive to her professor. Now she realized by the last appearance of her mother, she needed to meet the conjured truths of her imagination on her own truly manipulable terms. She realized she needed to enter the existences in her lucid dreams knowing they possessed equal substance to her waking life, existence clashing with existence, nature coming into contact with another nature, and in this clash creating a new reality of being. This was the essence of metaphysics. Every reality must be activated on its own terms. Sarah reasoned, if the hypothesis was correct, if metaphysics of logic had scientific validity, as Father Seraphim had asserted, she would be able to configure and reconfigure the environment in which she would find her mother, or some other force, were using the bridge of the great consciousness to connect these dreams and visions, and they were rewriting Sarah's dreams to include themselves. The time had come for me to turn the tables, mumbled Sarah, and I believe the best place to start lies in the book that purports to speak truth about spiritual reality. Sarah began her research. She had suspected she already possessed the answer she needed. Nevertheless, she sought confirmation. She searched for all the references to the term elder in the New Testament and discovered the term appeared 70 times. 27 times it seemed to refer to a type of office. Before she had intuited John the age was both the apostle and the elder on a visual level. However, in the dreams and visions, John the age often appeared with his younger self. In this part of her hypothesis, Sarah wanted to confirm it in the scriptures itself and the historical record itself. This would tell her the metaphors of her imagination had solidifying meaning. She felt if her hypothesis proved true, she could move from merely experiencing to activating effective content control of her dreams. As Sarah thumbed through the pages, spent the time pondering each reference, her eye landed on the one reference that seemed to provide her with the proof she needed. She stared at it long and hard, wondering about the construction of the sentence. The letter she mused over she found in the New Testament, and it claimed to be written by the Apostle Peter. She read and reread the reference. She cross-checked the phraseology with the other reference to the same term. The passage Sarah hooked into was First Peter chapter 5. The elders who are among you I exhort, I who am a fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that will be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion but willingly, not for dishonest gain but eagerly, nor as being lords over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away. All the imagery in this passage called to Sarah. She felt the connection. Jesus had called himself the Good Shepherd, she whispered in astonishment. You've made progress. It was Donaldson's voice. She looked up, and there in front of her, like a large, oversized monument, stood Donaldson. He seemed bigger to Sarah's senses this time. Somehow, Donaldson looked meaner to Sarah. The jolly coloring of his fat cheeks was gone. Instead, there seemed to be shadows there. His large girth had an immensity to it that felt menacing. He seemed to glow. The form of his illumination troubled Sarah, and she felt she had seen an example of this glow before. Donaldson blocked the corner by the wall, the area where this section of Nolan's third floor terminated at the banister. Because of his position, the wall behind him had a shadowy quality to it, framing Donaldson's appearance. Sarah obeyed her intuition this time. You are not really here. No, I am not, responded Donaldson. Am I dreaming? That is the question, isn't it? Donaldson pointed to Sarah's research strewn around her on the floor, the open books and the paper. Do you know the answer to the question? Sarah followed Donaldson's fat finger. She avoided his question. You are the one dreaming us together. That makes me think you know the answer to your own question. Donaldson didn't respond. By now, Sarah comprehended the answer to her question. She asked it anyhow. But how are you able to lucid dream and step into my waking life? I told you, responded Donaldson firmly, you are not ready to join the lucid dreamers group. Otherwise, my appearance in your waking life, like this, would not surprise you. She lied. I still don't understand. Why are you here? You do remember, try to recall. Consciousness transcends biology. Sarah ran her hand through the long strands of her black hair. She thought back, remembering what Father Seraphim had told her. This was Prawika's theory, the Orthodox Christian theoretical physicist with the PhD from Harvard. He used hyperdimensionality to create a bridge between realities. She paused, staring hard at Donaldson. You are using lucid dreaming to teleport between my wake life and your wake life. You are using the great consciousness. In a sense, yes, but it cannot be fully solidified. You are like a virtual self. Sarah nodded. You are right. I don't have this skill. She sort of lied again. She had yet to test her new knowledge, so technically, she lacked the skill to do what Donaldson and Wilfred could do. Donaldson chuckled. You humans have a famous saying, I think, therefore I am, but you don't really know what you think, and therefore why you are. What do you mean, you humans? Sarah suddenly felt the wind of fear go through her spirit. She pulled up from her seated position to face Donaldson. What do you mean? Forget about that, responded Donaldson firmly. Do you have an answer for me? Who is the elder? Why does the answer to this very small mystery matter to you? Sarah squinted at the virtual Donaldson, seeing his illuminated frame bracketed by the shadow of the wall behind him. A flashback memory came to her. She remembered herself standing in the garden paradise of the green grass, the four rivers, the rabbit Adam first named, and all the other birds, fish, and land creatures he also named. Adam explained the Creator to the woman and the Creator's voice. He made clear to her they were his creations, everything his creation. The woman enjoyed immensely all this new understanding of her existence. In this knowing, she grew stronger in use of her wholeness. She had need of nothing, and her laughter with Adam came forth loud and pure as they ran together through the fields, touching, hearing, seeing, and calling new things as they are. Sarah was back in that place, watching herself hiding behind the hedges. I'm back in the garden paradise. She looked around to see if she could see Donaldson, but he was nowhere to be found. What's going on? Sarah could see herself kneeling behind the green hedges in her clandestine reconnaissance. Paradise. She remembered thinking it existed in a kind of bubble, not enclosed, but underdeveloped. There were no natural boundaries, no massive, insurmountable mountains. The green landscape just stretched into the haze beyond the crisp, clear air of paradise. She got the sense that if Adam stood up and walked to these oasis boundaries, a new expression of the landscape would appear for him. The world around him conjured larger and reconfigured as new expressions of his playground. I'm reliving a lucid dream, thought Sarah. I've done this once before with John the Aged. Yes, you did. Sarah looked, and there, standing next to her, was Aristian, with his big grin, and Prochorus holding up the aged Apostle John. John spoke. We don't have much time. You must observe and understand. In a thread of a moment, so that he will not know. What do you mean? How did you? She was with Donaldson still. She felt it. At the same time, she had been commandeered and brought to the garden paradise again. Aristian rebuked her. Don't waste time. Remember Chokmah. Again, Sarah found herself standing alone, observing herself, observing her memories as if they were consciously being relived for her. She remembered feeling different in paradise, away, born from knowledge. She felt both her own taint and the untouched purity of this reality at the same time. She remembered doubting Adam felt this duality. The memory of Father Seraphim's teachings voiced to her. The brain has a quantum quality. That is why consciousness transcends biology. By the empathic fields, Sarah took the memory in. She saw through the eyes of herself, her form in this replayed lucid dream. She was in another dream within a dream. She was sharing it with John the Aged. Could Donaldson now also be manipulating her imagination to bring her back here and force her to share a lucid dream with him? John the Aged, Wilfred, and now Donaldson, making her be a part of the content of their minds? Was it that easy to gain access to her free will? She focused on the dream memory, the golden yellow halo around her other dreamed self, Adam, the woman, and every animate and inanimate thing in paradise knitted together in a pool of perfection. There existed no knowledge of malfunction for them, no awareness of danger, no shrinking back from the terrors of the night. Sarah sensed how she sensed these dark parts that she brought with her into paradise. The difference between herself and the primordial humans was the knowledge of the wonder of untainted good and the insidiousness of evil. Sarah remembered she knew she was naked, and Adam and the woman suffered from no such imposition of the moral rot that pierced their spiritual clothing. Sarah's other self had just come from being accompanied by Aristian, and this other spectral identical self knew she had left her own existence in Colorado, USA. In that reality, she worked at Donaldson's grocery store. Donald paid her to take this journey, but did he realize it would lead to her mother and to a knowledge of the life giving spirit and what it meant? There was something about Donaldson's participation Sarah couldn't quite get a handle on. The difference in her felt stark. She had a reason for being here emphatically unique from Adam's bliss and separate from Donaldson's initial charge. All this flooded into Sarah. Father Seraphim's teaching again came back to her. The blind mind cannot conjure an experience of seeing a loved one's face or a living room. It is called aphantasia. Those who are unable to lucid dream are aphants. Then at that moment, Sarah understood. She could see herself in the garden paradise because she could conjure it. It existed in her imagination. It existed in John, the aged, too, and he could bring her here. And she realized it existed in Donaldson's memory, too. He, too, had the ability to conjure this experience. Now, as she stood watching herself, a dream within a dream, sharing a lucid dream, she could see the woman had moved away to the thicket of trees at the center of the paradise. Sarah followed her conjured self. That Sarah moved down the hedge in a crouch, and the hedge moved with her when she reached its edge. Carried by the aid of John the Age, Sarah understood all of it to be a lucid dream built out of three imaginations. A battle of lucid dreams was happening. John's, Donaldson's, and an unknown third dreamer. She continued to follow herself as she moved forward. The landscape continued stretching out a little more with each new conjure until Sarah saw her other form draw close enough to the woman to hear but not be discovered. Sarah observed as herself watched the woman standing under the branches of the tree with the dark, big fruit, the brilliant dark fruit with its triangle shape. Into the tree with the succulent dark fruit, another person appeared in the branches. The being had two long legs dangling over the branch of the tree's thick leaves, multiple branches, and abundance of fruit. The being's eyes had a white brilliance. Unlike Adam and the woman, the being's shell had a hard to discern body of white, as if one could pass one's hand through it. Sarah remembered herself thinking, this looked solid, but the being had no solidity at all, she whispered as she watched herself. Furthermore, the being displayed no connection to the golden yellow aura that enclosed everything and everyone else in paradise. She remembered her very thought back then, dream or vision, she had thought to herself. No, it was a conjured lucid dream, the rewrite of an imagination, Sarah whispered to herself. Then she found herself back in the Norland Library, standing in front of Donaldson. The white brilliance around his large girth blinded her for an instant. She tried to refocus. You glitched, said Donaldson. Sarah realized Donaldson didn't know she had left, that John had sent her back to the garden paradise. What do you mean? I'm thinking about your question. And your answer? Who is the elder? Sarah knelt and started packing up her material. When she had secured her papers in her backpack and gathered her books, she thought about what to say. I read in the book of Acts the following: And when we had come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly. On the following day, Paul went in with us to James, and all the elders were present. All the elders were present. Jesus called himself the Good Shepherd. I was curious about these connections. She paused and looked at Donaldson. But you are not curious. I'm not curious. I sent you to make this discovery. What is your answer? Sarah stood up and adjusted her backpack on her shoulders. It was very common for the humble apostles to call themselves elders. This truth is the difficulty of the entire matter: how to breach the mist of history as to who was using this term, elder, in the writing you translated for my mother. I reflected on the witness of the ancient Bishop Papias. He heard the Apostle John the Aged, as I have come to know him. Saint Irenaeus, in his work against heresies, recorded Papias heard John. And what did Papias himself write? Along with the interpretations, I shall not hesitate to add all that I ever learned and carefully remembered from the elders. And in the same place, Papias wrote, and whenever anyone came who had seen a follower of the elders, I asked about their words and what Andrew or Peter had said, or Philip, or Thomas, or James, or John, or Matthew, or any of the Lord's disciples, and what Aristian and what the presbyter John, disciples of the Lord, was still saying. Sarah paused again. She pulled against the straps of her backpack over her shoulder. Wilfred must have told you about this place in Nolan Library. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to conjure this location. Why do you hypothesize that? Because you can't lucidly dream what you can't imagine, Sarah frowned. You are working with Wilfred. That's why you don't want me to be part of your group. But the question is, why? Why did you get Wilfred to deceive me and let me experience my mother? Sarah had penetrated to a certain truth. It had been a ruse, something else. She continued, this was never about finding the elder. You knew all along that the elder had to be the Apostle John. They all called themselves elder. All the apostles did that. Papias called them all elders, except the confusion comes that the word presbyter John is used with Aristian, and people assume Papias must be referring to a different John. But this is not the case, correct? In this phrase, Papias is merely referring to the elderly nature of John, John the aged, not a different John than is in the list with Peter and Matthew and Thomas. It's the same John in both lists. Aristian is the clue. He's the young one, a disciple of the Lord, and John the aged one, a disciple of the Lord. There is no difference. Donaldson's virtual image clapped. The illumination around him sparked with each clap. Bravo! Very clever deduction. Again, you knew the answer all the time, asserted Sara angrily. You paid me to search for something to which you already knew the answer. The John who wrote Revelation was not the apostle. He was John, true, a prophet, true, but not the apostle. He never calls himself the elder. Eusebius, in his church history, simply refers to that work as the revelation of John. He doesn't use the term apostle. I found a letter of a certain Dionysius, Bishop of Alexandria, in my research. He clarified things very much for me, writing, "This book is by John, some holy and inspired writer, I do not deny, but I do not agree he was the apostle, the son of Zebedee, the brother of James, who wrote the gospel according to John and the general epistle. From the character of each and from the style and format of Revelation, I conclude the author is not the same, for the evangelist nowhere names himself in either the gospel or the epistle, in neither of the first nor third person, whereas the author of Revelation announces himself at the very beginning, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which he sent by his angel to his servant John. Then he writes, John to the seven churches in Asia, grace to you and peace. Yet the evangelist did not write his name at the beginning of his general epistle, not even in the extant second and third extant epistles of John. Even if they are short, is John named. He is merely the nameless presbyter. Donaldson roared with laughter. Astounding. I was right about you. Yes, I knew. Agitated, Sara moved backward. Then why? Why send me on a quest to discover who the elder was when you already have what you needed? What sick game are you playing, Donaldson? More important than who is why, Sara. Why are you still mourning? Yes, you are still mourning, are you not? Your mother, Jasmine, is why you are still here, talking to me now. In the back of your mind, I can see it, your very thought. You want to know about Jasmine. This is the reason you are still doing this. Yes, think those thoughts. I see them. Rhonda warned me about you from the beginning. Donaldson stretched out his arms wide. What wrong have I done you? I financed your task. I reconnected you to your mother. Isn't that what you really wanted? Yes, but Donaldson shook his head, folded his arms around his big chest. You went searching for Jasmine again because you refused to let her go. That I didn't tell you everything is not a crime. No, you didn't. Nor are you telling me everything about your connection to my mother right now. What twisted manipulation are you doing? Well, you have the lockbox. Did you open it? That's not your business. Oh, but it is. It is. More than you know yet. Yes, John the Apostle is the elder. Mystery solved. For you. But it's not enough. Not nearly enough for you. Am I right? Angrily, Sara shouted. What do you want from me? The answer is, what do you want from me? What did Jasmine want, right? Isn't that now what you want to know? You still have the lockbox and the silver key. If you opened it, you know what you must do. And if you are still afraid to open it, you know what you must do. Then Donaldson was gone. The reality around Sara rushed at her senses. She flinched back as if she were snapping out of a dream paralysis again. She glanced around her, looking for Donaldson. She took a deep breath. She saw only the wall where he had been standing, gray, solid, real. Lockbox, Chapter 69. Wilfred betrayed me. Sarah looked out her trailer window. A light snow was falling. A long green kimono hung on her petite frame down to her ankles, and she wore a pair of open-toe sandals. Her black hair she had pinned up, almost like an ancient geisha. She turned around to face her friend, who occupied herself flipping through some pages in the Orthodox study Bible Father Seraphim had given to Sarah several weeks back. Rhonda wore a thick, fluffy blue sweater suitable for the hardly adequate heat in the trailer. She wore dark blue jeans and ankle-high black boots. You should have been there, mused Sarah. I wish you weren't an aunt. I've entered a world that, looking back, I could never have imagined. Think of it, Rhonda. Authentic, existing reality, separate and distinct from this one, where you and I are present right at this moment. Imagine it. My dreams are the door to these other forms of being. The mirror of your dreams, interjected Rhonda. Sarah walked back to the couch and sat next to her friend. She gently caressed Rhonda's shoulder. Sarah had so much on her mind, more than she could share. Don't say mirror. She looked up to the trailer window. The word mirror conjured up images that Sarah had learned to fear, images of being trapped in one of those mirrors. I remember long ago when this first began. Christian warned me to never look into a mirror. In a lucid dream, one must never even entertain a reflection of oneself in the mirror. Oh, Rhonda felt the chill of the morning. Then she looked around the living room, searching out if there were any mirrors in their location. I see none here. You are safe. She opened the Bible and ran her hand along an exposed page. Thinking out loud, she asked, why do you think Wilfred betrayed you? When Donaldson could conjure my location with his lucid dream, I knew. Ew, the word conjure makes me cringe. Can you use another term? Sarah's eyebrow raised at her friend's distaste for the word conjure. Sure, it makes you feel more comfortable. Configure is another way to say it. It expresses the same idea. Much better, affirmed Rhonda. That other word feels wicked. She shivered at the thought. Anyway, you said you knew, but Donaldson didn't actually say Wilfred betrayed you. No, but maybe you are being too sensitive. Not that I would be defending Donaldson, I told you. I tried to warn you about Donaldson in the very beginning when you first began to search for the elder. You warned me. Sarah climbed to her feet. At that time, your warning of caution just felt to me like gossip. She wandered over to her window, gazing at the snow fall outside. Luckily, I've had other guides. She paused and turned to face Rhonda. I want to believe my instincts. They are telling me Wilfred is true. I think he is too, responded Rhonda gently. You two make a wonderful pair. Come, sit. Sarah slowly returned to the couch and joined Rhonda. She looked at the page in the Bible Rhonda was smoothing out. What do you have there? A passage written by the Apostle John. You know, after I told you my conversion story, I must admit I've been curious about your response. What would you do? if it would open you up to universal eternal truths. That's a mouthful. Universal eternal truths. I know, it's a mouthful. It's the science of spiritual logic, Father Seraphim's metaphysics. Exactly. Rhonda ran her finger along the exposed page in the Gospel of John. You've been visiting John in his old age through lucid dreams. Now that you know he is the elder, you can believe this passage, I think. You've been researching all these sources and going to all these places on the wings of your imagination by the power of divine visions and the intrigue of apparition. True, agreed Sarah. I remember everything clearly. What Father Seraphim taught me about the science of metaphysics, empirical terrestrial materialism, and the science derived from it only gives us hints of God. Powerful hints, no doubt. When we look at the wide expanse of the universe, we can see the order and logic of it all. Not just see the reality God in the direct sense, we can experience it through intuition by our imagination, because God's nature is separate from what we are. We are made from terrestrial matter and energy, terrestrial reality, defined Rhonda. Correct. Sarah laughed. We are both becoming metaphysicians. Rhonda laughed too. Sarah wondered out loud. These lucid dreams, they have proved to me that these realities of matter and energy came from different types of realities. Realities we might not know because we simply cannot now imagine them. My intellect has no basis to imagine them, excepting through the science of quantum entanglement. And if we can't imagine them, we cannot conjure them. Oops, configure them with any kind of study of their structure and behavior of their physical natural world, natural to their reality. Sarah turned to Rhonda with excitement. Right, natural to their reality, to their physics. She paused, her thoughts deep and her emotions exuberant. I am grateful for this one thing from Donaldson. I no longer have to mourn that I will never again meet my mother. I know now she is out there, not in the physical way of our terrestrial nature, but in the way of another nature, one subject to my ability to conjure her presence. There, from my imagination, a way I can access. For now, interrupted Rhonda. Why do you say that? Sarah felt a tinge of fear. She might lose the ability to visit her mother again all of a sudden. Don't say that. I'm sorry, but even an end came for the Apostle John in his terrestrial form, and an end is coming to all this. Not everyone will experience the universal eternal truth of God in the same way. At some point, your choice to relate to God with God comes to the decisive moment. I believe that is where you are headed. You know who the elder is now, and for some reason you've been given not only the ability to lucidly dream about him, to configure his reality as it unfolded, but also the gift of visions of Jasmine. While the seraphim said visions are external to myself and that I don't control those, confirmed Sarah. She sighed, smoothed out her kimono. He's been right all along. The visit of Donaldson I did not control, nor the visions of the Son of Man on the floating stone platforms. To the Ancient of Days, I was trapped in dream paralysis, which also happened with the last visit of my mother. Which is why I said, for now, asserted Rhonda. The clock is ticking to some end game. You have been given the ability to observe, experiment, test, and hypothesize spiritual natures, spiritual realities, spiritual truths through dreams and visions. Excitedly, Rhonda turned her attention back to the biblical passage. Let me read you these verses, and you tell me, metaphysician, what do they mean to you? So Rhonda smoothed out the Bible page she had been thumbing And she loudly read from the Gospel of John, chapter 16. And these things I did not say to you at the beginning, because I was with you. But now I go away to him who sent me. And none of you asked me, where are you going? But because I have said these things to you, sorrow has filled your heart. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is to your advantage that I go away. For if I do not go away, the Helper will not come to you. But if I depart, I will send him to you. And when he has come, he will convict the world of sin, and of righteousness, and of judgment. Of sin, because they do not believe in me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father, and you see me no more. Of judgment, because the ruler of this world is judged. I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. However, when he, the Spirit of truth, has come, he will guide you into all truth. For he will not speak on his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak, and he will tell you things to come. Sarah sat back, her mind filled with possibilities from all that she had experienced. Wow, this is astounding. Jesus said all that? He did, nodded Rhonda. But wait, don't hypothesize yet. Listen to what John said himself in his letter to the believers in Ephesus and its surrounding cities. She turned to the page in the letter called First John. That which was from the beginning, that which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled, concerning the word of life. The life was manifested, and we have seen, and bear witness, and declare to you that eternal life which was with the Father and was manifested to us. That which we have seen and heard we declare to you, that you also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son Jesus Christ. And these things we write to you that your joy may be full. Sarah reached forward and grabbed the Bible from Rhonda's lap. She ran a finger along the passage, reading it silently to herself. She looked at her friend, having wonder in her eyes. I cannot believe this is in here. It's always been in here? For more than 2,000 years, confirmed Rhonda. But I've been researching for weeks and didn't read anything like this. Even in the lucid dreams, John the Age never told me anything like this. Did you ever ask? Well, no. Sarah stopped herself. The phrase is, the life was manifested, that eternal life, word of life, jumped out at Sarah. She felt jolted by their force. All the memories of the garden paradise vision, the loss of the golden yellow halo around her, came back to her. Do you realize what this means? What it means to me is not important in the story, Rhonda goaded Sarah. Tell me what it means to you. It means the life-giving spirit belongs not only to the creator of the garden paradise, but also to the Jesus of history. That is what it means to me. Sarah went silent. The implications of what she just said had taken things to an entirely different level of acceptance. She whispered, why had I not made this connection before? I mean, I'm sure the hints were all around me. Jesus is the creator. Rhonda nodded her head, gently taking the Bible from Sarah. Go on. Well, this internal evidence means the spirit of life, the life-giving spirit, is the creator too. Rhonda started turning the pages in the Bible. What do you say to that? Because of what you just read. Jesus called him the Spirit of Truth. When he, the Spirit of Truth, has come, he will guide you into all truth. He called the Spirit He. Rhonda smiled. Are you saying the Creator, Jesus, and the Spirit of Truth are all the same? Sarah turned to her friend slowly, the shock on her face, her almond-shaped eyes narrowing. I don't think I'm unsure I'm saying that, but what I am saying is they are all connected to the truth. What truth? That God exists, that he's Jesus, and he's life, he's a spirit, And put these three together and you get spiritual life, the alternate reality. Amazing, Sarah. You two have become quite a metaphysician. What does all this tell you? Sarah sighed. That I have been totally wrong about the foundations of reality my entire life. How it could be lived, I dreamed. I have visioned all this and yet missed God and his nature's presence totally. Rhonda laughed. You are young. You will get over it. Okay. Sarah took a deep breath. I think I'm on overload. Oh, no, not yet. I have one final piece of the puzzle for you to ponder. She turned the pages in the Bible until she found her passage. This one is bonus. It's from the book of Revelation. John the Age didn't write that one. I agree with the Bishop of Alexandria, Dionysius. Rhonda pushed back. If you say so, it is debatable in Christian circles. You're entitled to draw your conclusions from your research. Nonetheless, listen to this. Now I, John, saw and heard these things. And when I heard and saw, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel who showed me these things. Then he said to me, see that you do not do that, for I am your fellow servant, and of your brethren the prophets, and of those who keep the words of this book. Worship God. Rhonda's fingers moved down the page, and she continued reading aloud. And behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to everyone according to his works. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, and the first and the last. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life. Rhonda looked at the transfixed Sarah. Then she concluded, here's the last part. And the Spirit and the bride say, come. And let him who hears say, come. And let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the waters of life freely. Then Rhonda stopped and closed the Bible. Lockbox, Chapter 70. Overloaded mentally, Sarah said goodbye to her friend and spent the rest of the afternoon distracting herself with housework. She spent the night watching game shows on TV. She immersed herself in anything she could find having nothing to do with dreams or visions or spirits. The next day, after a fitful night following her meeting with Rhonda, she decided to spend more time alone outdoors. The sky had cleared of clouds. The typical blue Colorado sky beckoned to the outdoors. The temperature had risen to a balmy 50 degrees on a Saturday. The snow had all but melted. Typical, again, of Colorado. Snow never stays long because of the relentless sunny days. Sarah packed a lunch, turkey and cheese sandwiches, a fruit juice box, Lay's potato chips because she loved their salty crunch, and an apple. She stuffed these in her backpack. Sarah dressed in long white slacks, her orange sneakers, and her brown pullover hoodie. She put on her black jacket over these and headed for a thinking stroll along the Boulder Bike Path and the Boulder Creek. Sarah felt a brisk, solitary walk would be good for her. On the path along the creek, she drank in the clean Boulder air. The half-frozen Boulder Creek inched along between rock and ice in the riverbed to the left of the paved bike path. Sarah felt happy for this decision. The walk made her begin to feel lighter on her feet. The winter warmth of Boulder's sunshine predictably brought the inhabitants of Boulder out in typical sportsman-like fashion. Bikes passed Sarah on the path at regular intervals. Mothers pushed baby strollers along the path. Joggers moved along, seemingly talking to the air or responding to the communications in their earpieces. Sarah enjoyed the clear view of the university and the Flatirons behind it. She loved the feeling of being outdoors with other people, their vibrant faces, the satisfaction she saw in their enjoyment of outdoor activities helped clear the cobwebs in Sarah's mind. The stroll lifted her to a place of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. Arriving to a bench overlooking some tennis courts on the opposite side of the creek, Sarah sat there and rested. Behind her was situated the trademark Renaissance Hotel of Boulder. Sarah quietly enjoyed her turkey sandwich and apple. As she sat on that bench, taking pleasure in the surroundings as she consumed her meal, she felt a sense of liberation. Her last conversation with Rhonda swarmed heavy truths inside her consciousness. It also provided her an insight she had never once in her past imagined. Rhonda's reading made it clear to Sarah. Since birth, real life was everything familiar: mom, dad, brothers and sisters, stone and wood, steel and metal, water and earth, all the hand could manipulate and the eye could see. Simple and easy, life contained no ambiguity. There never arose the need to give genuine consideration to any speculation about other realities. Real life? Since she began lucid dreaming, the meaning had completely eviscerated her simple worldview. The adult men jogging by her, the ladies pushing strollers by with their little children playing around them, cyclists speeding through, they all seemed different to Sarah. No longer could she simply see flesh as only bone and skin, all the things she once fretted over as real life. The clothes people wore, the style of their hair, whether their faces had pimples or not, the car they drove, or the house they built. None of it could be called the foundations of real life. The primordial deception had been laid bare. Finishing up with her potato chips, she cleaned up and resumed her walk along the bike path toward the university. Soon she reached the bridge that crossed over the creek to the university. The student family housing complex was situated behind her. She crossed the bridge and started to climb up the gradual grade of a stone path. This path leading to the back of Folsom Stadium had always been a test of stamina for Sarah. The path led to the Student Recreation Center, one of her favorite places to spend time. Once inside the recreation center, she checked out a basketball and made her way to the basketball courts. There she spent an afternoon hour building up a sweat, running on the court and shooting hoops. The sweaty workout rejuvenated Sarah. Not many were on the court this Saturday afternoon, so she enjoyed having the court almost undisturbed. She had a pretty good jumper, too, and Sarah enjoyed her playing time. At last, the hour had come to begin the trek home. She retraced her day's journey. She walked back along the bike path, back across the park, and down to her parked Volvo in the lot on the corner of Arapahoe and 30th Street. This day reconfirmed the love Sarah had for her waking life. It was truly a good creation. Nostalgic thoughts of her mother glorified the region where Sarah was born and grew up. This nostalgia inspired Sarah. From Boulder to Lafayette and all its surroundings, even though they may no longer be her understanding of real life, they still held a solid place in her truth. This truth, Sarah believed, should still be vibrant for her mother also. This was home. She wondered as she got in her car and turned on the ignition if the spiritual foundation of life could ever really be home. She drove out of the parking lot and onto 30th Street, turning left, then right onto Arapahoe Avenue. She drove heading toward Foothills Parkway, towards Lafayette and her trailer home, where Sarah's imaginations of her mother lived in full abundance. The last words Rhonda had read to her yesterday loomed large in Sarah's thinking. And the Spirit and the bride say, Come, come take of the water of life freely. The Spirit and the bride. Sarah now had a strong grasp of the idea of spirit, that it was real life. But what was meant by the bride? Could the bride call to her? The bride obviously had to be a metaphor of some kind, right? She turned onto Foothills Parkway, heading west toward Highway 36 and home. The Spirit and the bride say, Come. Sarah heard in that invitation the voice of her mother, Come, of Donaldson, come, of Rhonda, come, of Father Seraphim, come, of Wilfred, come, as she saw looming above them all, as if in a vision, the truth of the lockbox with its demands, Come. As she hit the highway, heading south toward Lafayette, the roar of the traffic around her, the soft hum of the car engine, the rumble of the car's wheels carrying her over the pavement, combined to be a kind of symphony that orchestrated her reflections. Sarah heard a voice speak out loud. These lucid dreams, they have proved to me that these realities of matter and energy came from different types of realities. Realities we might not know because we simply cannot now imagine them. Our intellect has no basis to imagine them. And if we can't imagine them, we cannot conjure them with any kind of study of their structure and behavior of their physical natural world. Those were Sarah's own words, being repeated back to herself. They reached her ears, however, in a different voice. She looked to her right and saw her mother sitting on the passenger side of the car. The unexpected sight of her mother sitting there made Sarah jerk the steering wheel so that the Volvo momentarily swerved out of her lane, then back again. Mother? Jasmine turned to Sarah and smiled. Right. Natural to their reality. Jasmine's apparition repeated Sarah's word back to her again. I am grateful for this one thing from Donaldson. I no longer have to mourn that I will never again meet my mother. I know now she is out there, not in the physical way of our terrestrial nature, but in a way of a spiritual nature, a way I can access. Sarah drove and kept looking over to the passenger seat. She thought she saw her mother sitting there, but at times she saw only the empty passenger seat. Jasmine appeared in the seat again. Why do you think I am here? I am not here. You are dreaming. You are being lucid. If you are not careful, you will lose yourself. Remember the lockbox. What did Rhonda tell you? Not everyone will experience the universal eternal truths of God in the same way. At some point, your choice to relate to God and with God comes to the decisive moment. Sarah went to respond to her mother, but Jasmine vanished again. All Sarah saw was an empty passenger seat. Sarah pounded on her steering wheel. She felt like she had no control over her own realities. She felt like a sieve, and she was leaking. I'm losing control of my own imagination. Driving up to her trailer home parking spot, she stopped the Volvo. She just sat there as the engine idled. Her head tilted forward and rested on the steering wheel. Sarah lifted her head and gazed around the interior of her Volvo. She mumbled, confused, Is my own mother haunting me? Sarah examined her car's interior and ran her hand along the empty passenger side seat. The vacant seat reflected the tear in her heart. She turned off the car's motor and climbed out of the car. Sarah told herself she needed to close this loop. Could she bring her mother back? Sarah had begun thinking this astonishing idea a while ago, ever since Wilfred took her to that stormy night on the Sea of Galilee, and she first saw her mother. And now Sarah could not close the door to her own speculation. She reasoned she would never have any peace of mind if she didn't try to create some kind of predictability around her mother. Her interior world would remain haunted, and her waking life would be permanently untrustworthy. She stood staring at her trailer home's rectangular dwelling from the outside, wondering if its mental frame would melt away before her eyes. She believed she had a new kind of faith in the spiritual realities. Her mother had accused her of refusing to believe, and for the first time she understood. She needed to believe, if only for the reason of having a defense against forces in the spiritual foundation to her terrestrial existence. And if she were to defend herself, she also realized she needed to know how her mother failed. If she could resolve this lingering mystery, other benefits regarding her mother might be gained. Even though Sarah felt like her home drifted on an invisible sea, a sea with an essence all its own, she had gained the skill to surf this ocean of a vast hidden spiritual nature. Quantum entanglement said, in the multiverse, there is another Jasmine. Are you mother? Mused Sarah. Or another Jasmine. She wondered if the question even mattered. She might be able to have her mother back. There no longer lingered fear in Sarah's mind. The spiritual essence was causation, not annihilation. Yes, it could seep into her reality. The greater consciousness held her consciousness, and as a bridge for her imagination, it would give her the capability to conjure reality by means of visions and dreams into every other existence. The brain was like a fence, a non-zero element of information integrating and marking the boundary, dividing the spiritual nature from the world of matter. This narrow fence in Sarah's humanity had been breached, where once the fence kept the two natures apart. Now the fence had melted away, flooding Sarah's world. Whether this breach had a nefarious origin or a benign one, it no longer mattered to Sarah. He was being flooded like Jasmine had been. Sarah was sure of this, and the only solution was to believe and to act.